Hello. More chatting shit about the Lunar Cup. Pleased to be joined again by Aaron. You probably recognise Aaron from the back end of last season, did a couple of videos with me. And joined by Moz, who was the Season 1 Yorkshire champion, looking to get back into Silph this season. And Twiggy as well, who I'm sure people will recognise, who's also not going to drop out this season. I'll sit here in 2 months' time regretting saying that now, I'm sure. But
it's a bold claim. It's a bold claim.
It's big statement. How are we all? All good?
Yeah, all good.
Good stuff. We've had the rules, 4 days now? 5 days? Something like that. And we're starting to see it settle down a bit. A couple of grass types. But it is quite spicy tonight. I think Twiggy's up first, and your pick was something like number 35 or something like that on the rankings.
It's number 27.
Look at that, he's done his own work. So what have you got for us?
Well, I've gone for a little bit of Beedrill. In a meta that's not got much ground, and in a meta where you've got things like Magnezone, you've got things like Raichu that are probably going to be very big. There's not many options out there for your ground types. I mean, you've got Golurk. I don't know if that's how you say it, but that's the biggest glass cannon you've ever seen. Beedrill's always nice with its drill run. There's a lot of bug choices going around. You got your Galvs, Crustles, Escavs, Fortress might come in there. But what Beedrill does offer you is that drill run. What it does need though is a very, very good partner. And what I've found is it complements Alolan and Graveler very, very well. The only things that mutually beat the pair of them are Credilli, Cofagrigus, and Golurk. Now, Credilli, Beedrill can give a very good match to. And what I'm going to go ahead and say is that Beedrill does need a shield advantage, probably in this meta. With a shield advantage, it can beat a lot of the top meta mons. Frostlass, it can deal with a shield up. It can deal with Mandy a shield up. It can deal with Credilli a shield up. Now, it's not particularly my type of strategy that. So it would be one that I'd have to really get used to. But if you can do well with saving your shield for a mon to sweep at the back, Beedrill's pretty much your go-to. What it does offer you as well is that you are beating a lot of the other bug types. So it gives you good coverage there as well. You're going to be good against the dark types. Now, Mandy with Air Slash does do quite well against it. But like I said, if you've got that shield advantage, you can flip that matchup. So it's really about a strategy with it rather than it being the sort of mon that you're going to go in and lead with, because I would not recommend you lead with it at all. But if you can find the right scenarios and the right play or the right pair, and I've gone with Graveler, but I'm sure there's others, they can become quite a nice duo. And again, if you've got a couple of poison jabs worth of energy, you're not going to want your Magnezone or your electric types or any of them coming into it. Probably not one that I'm going to run when I've dug deep into it, because I like the look of it, but it's a very interesting pick to throw your opponents off a little bit compared to some of the other bug types that you sort of know what you're getting from them.
I think
it's go on.
I was going to say, the point about the ground damage is something that I looked at with Beedrill, and because you want the bulldozers coming as fast as you can, I looked at infestation a little bit because it charges that little bit faster than the poison jab, and it means that with one infestation lead, you will just beat Magnezone and Graveler in all evens. So on the safe top, it's perhaps got a bit of play there, but then you're losing the poison damage, the poison jab damage, which is so good now. So it's something to consider if you're looking at Beedrill, but yeah, I think poison jab's the way to go. Yeah, Aaron, Moz, any thoughts on Beedrill?
It's usually run like an anti-fighter, isn't it? Does it still beat Heracross now? It's got Rock Blast, is it?
Didn't look at the Heracross matchup.
Because I assume that because they're both so glassy, but Heracross is resisting basically everything, right? Other than Poison Jab, is it?
Yeah, it still beats Heracross all evens.
So that's that's a really important one to pick up from the looks of it, because I've been seeing a lot of Heracross in practice. So I assume we'll see quite a few across the month, hopefully. And then Beedrill could, be used as that role, because then you're pairing it with Alolan Graveler, and obviously they're going to want to bring the Heracross to beat that, and then you get them with the Beedrill.
Yeah, Heracross needs 4 counters to be able to flip the 1 and 2 shield matchups as well, so it's a real solid.
That's quite a lot, yeah.
Go on, Moz, what were you going to say, Moz?
Mine was just a general comment, really. I feel like Beedrill could be good purely, as Liam's saying, for the drill run, because there's really not a lot of ground in this cup from what I've seen, and there could be a lot of things that are really weak to ground that are being used. The Alolan Graveler Golem, Magnezone, Raichu, Gengar Horns potentially. So I really do think you need some mud in there. So yeah, just a general comment really. And when I can use Beedrill, I tend to, because it is quite versatile and it does normally have some quite nice resistances. Yeah,
absolutely excellent one. I think really, really underrated. I think what's something that I quite like about it is that it's a bug type that. So let's take the Flyers in the net. I mean, Mandibuzz is a little less this way because it's Mandibuzz and it's bulky as it is. It's a bug because it doesn't rely on bug damage because of the Poison Jab. It's the sort of regular things that you would consider counters to it they struggle a bit. So like things like Stropius will struggle a bit versus it. Things like Zapdos have to be quick on the switching to beat it. And as Liam was saying, because of the Bulldoze, even the Rock types will have to be quick to beat it. Poison typing, I think, is really, really nice in this book as well, because it gives you the double counter resistance, gives you the double grass resistance, although we're not seeing a load of grass, but for things like Roserade, that's going to be particularly useful, because regardless of whether it's Bullet Seed or Poison Jab, the Poison Tapping is used in both as well, and Roserade's similar to Beedrill actually in many ways. I find it's very difficult to deal with, just a bit of a pest. So it's got a few strings to its bow, Beedrill. Interesting that you sort of looked at Graveler as the pair, with it. If you're looking for something that's going to get you a shield up, I would have thought Magnezone might put a bit more shield pressure on things on a switch. But then I suppose you could run something like Frostlass as well, which we all know is great at getting a shield. I don't know. Any reason that Graveler stood out over Magnezone for you?
I think the rock damage definitely I think drew me to it over Magnezone. The big move doesn't necessarily, obviously Wild Charge just completely, obviously double debuffs you, whereas with Graveler, your bait move is still going to hit hard, whereas with Magnezone, you're just going to throw a mirror shot. So I think there's pros and cons for both. I think I much prefer, personally, Graveler to Magnezone just for that, knowing that you're going to hit no matter what you throw.
Fair enough. Graveler, have either of you guys used Graveler before? What's your experience using it? What do you reckon to it?
It charges so fast because Rock Blast is quite cheap. Obviously, you've got that Stone Edge nuke, and you don't really want to risk taking a Stone Edge. Rock damage looks probably the best typing in this cup, I reckon. With all the bugs flying around, obviously if somebody brings like Frostlass, Mande, and a bug, 50% of their team are already weak to rock. and then say you pick up one neutral matchup in there, you're in a really good spot. Which is why Greville looks really good. I'm wondering about Golem as well, because obviously that picks up Wild Charge, doesn't it, if you want? So I think there could be a case for that as well. But obviously it'll be based on obviously which matchups you want them to pick up, because I think Greville usually beats Golem overall. So I'd probably go Greville just for that reason alone. But if there was a specific matchup somebody wanted to pick up, then they'd just go with either or.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, I guess with rock typing being so good, with rock damage being so good here, I've never used Graveler. I've only ever used Golem. I just like Wild Charge. I think it's a great move. But I mean, there must be, as you say, there must be a reason why Graveler is higher up in the rankings than Golem. But yeah, I think to be honest, it's not something I'm looking at. Like Graveler, I like other electric types here. But I might, to be fair, I might look at double. Am I right in thinking, Liam, that you used Moz, that you used Greville way back in Jungle Cup Season 1?
It was definitely one cup I used it. I think it might have been Jungle Cup, yeah. And I remember getting on with it quite well. Because I have a feeling at the time, it might have been when it got released. Or not long after, maybe it wasn't particularly available, and that's what made it stand out a little bit. But yeah, my memory's a little bit tainted. Sorry.
Long
on
time
season
ago
one.
now.
I can't remember too much. But no, I've generally got good memories of it rather than bad. So whether that's something.
Fair. Well, yeah, anything that can hit it is certainly worth paying for to, I reckon. Cool. Any more thoughts on it? Anything else you desperately wanted to say, Liam, before we move on? No, cool. Well, I think you briefly mentioned Aaron's pick earlier. Let's jump into it.
Yeah, I've gone with Credilli. I feel like I'm talking about Credilli every other time on here now. But no, like I said, the rock damage is just crazy. But I looked at it, and when I was looking at like Graveler and stuff like that, and Credilli picks them up. And obviously Magnezone would be an issue, but if you're absolutely insane and you want to run Bulldoze, you pick up that as well, because there's not really much of a case for grass damage here.
Yep.
So you can always just drop the grass knot. But what I have found is that the grass knot bait in certain matchups is really important. But if you, like Liam was saying about Beedrill, if you get it as shield up, I think it loses to 9 things in the entire meta. And I think 2 of them will be common, maybe. And that's Heracross, and I can't remember exactly what the other one was. But I think the others were all something like, Breloom and stuff like that. The stuff that hits you super effective and resists everything you have. And then if you get it as shield up and 1 bullet to the head, I think that drops down to about 4 or 5 things. There's basically nothing that will beat it up a shield with energy. I think even Heracross goes down to that, but I think that's with grass, not Stone Edge. But when I was looking at it, like overall against the good picks in the evens, you pick up Mandy, you pick up Graveler. Crustle, I think you lose the 2s, but that's it. If they're running Fury Cutter, you pick up the 1s and 0s still, I think. And the 2s is very close, because Smackdown for some reason makes it better versus Credilli. I think it's just because you're going neutral overall.
Right.
I'm not sure why. Zwellius doesn't like Stone Edge.
No.
So I think you, and obviously they've got to hit you with a Dark Pulse, so I think you can pick up the 1s there. Then you've got like the stuff after that. You've got Fortress Umbreon and Roserade, which all beat you. You beat Golem. Galv, you beat Galv, basically. It's like a bit of, with the debuffs and stuff, but I think they need basically a perfect Galv to beat Credilli in the 1s and 0s. If not, and then you lose the 2s because the debuffs get too much and they outpace you. But yeah, there's so much stuff here that really doesn't like rock, and with you getting stab, you charge into it basically as fast as you can, I think. I don't think there's much that gets to a Stone Age faster. It really does just, I feel like it could just like, some teams, you know, obviously, if you safe swap it in and they've not got an answer, you could go through like 2 months if they don't shield correctly. But the rock damage here just looks insane. And then obviously you can pick your second move depending on how crazy you are.
See, I don't think Bulldoze is crazy at all. I think if I was looking at, in fact, I am looking at Greville, and there's not even a second thought in my head that I would definitely run Bulldoze Stone Age. Absolutely, definitely would run Bulldoze Stone Age, because the grass types, like what's grass, like grass types here are beating the electrics. That's what they're here for, right?
Yeah.
But at that point, you don't need grass damage. It's nice, it comes quicker, but you'll struggle versus Magnezone. And if you, I feel like if I want to run a grass type, it
has to beat the electrics.
Yeah, and that's completely contradictory to what I'm about to say about my pick. Absolutely, completely contradictory. However, that's what I'm looking for from a grass type in general. Yeah, and I just think Bulldoze is going to do that. Yeah, I don't know though, because the nice thing about Greville historically has been is that the Vigoroth counter switching it struggles because body slam is resisted.
Yeah.
Here, the counter users don't have that problem, and that's where my big hesitation comes from.
I think the way I looked at it was that the counter users are really going to be the main issue. So if you build your team to counter them, Greville, then bring in a fighter, you know, you could run a line with like a neutral matchup and then 2 anti-fighters. And they brought it just because that Greville worries them so much. Then you pick up the game. So I think it's just about building the team around it. I think pairing it with Roserade looks really good, because obviously that picks up all the fighters. Unless I think Obsidian gets the boost in the ones, but just don't shield the first one.
Yeah.
And then obviously you're picking up the fire damage. You're also picking up some of the bugs that obviously are supposed to counter the grasses, but then you're looking at 2 grass types that can fight back against the bugs here. And they don't really, Roserade being that anti-fighter, that core, they're going to have to really work around it.
Yeah, it's a difficult one to break that, because I feel like grass is getting the short end of the stick here a bit. I think a lot of people are looking past grass and perhaps aren't going to have many counters, like hard counters to grass. And as you say, like if people are only bringing, you know, let's say Mandibuzz as the grass counter, the Greville is going to beat that. Then
Greville beats Mandibuzz. I think if it's Air Slash, you pick it all neutral. If it's Snarl, I think you beat it down a shield in the 0-1s.
Oh wow!
But I think you need Grass Knot for that. So, but I mean, if you in that situation where obviously they don't shield the first, you land the Stone Edge, they have to shield the second. Get that bait, and then you beat it down a shield, and then they're in real trouble because they've come in a shield up and lost.
Yeah,
but it's just because Mandibuzz it does so little damage. Like obviously you're hitting it really hard, and they just can't hit you back as well because you're fully neutral.
Yeah, it's a bulky thing as well. Greville really, it's a lot bulkier than people think. That's the thing. Liam, Maz, any thoughts on Greville? I saw a few nods there, Twiggy.
I was thinking, was Infestation not a decent fast move for it? Because grass isn't really hitting anything. Not that you would want Bullet Seed to hit things, but with the little bit of, because the energy gain isn't much different between Infestation and Bullet Seed, is it? So yeah, would that little bit of chip damage against certain things of the meta just help nudge it a little bit better?
I've not actually looked at it, but I'm assuming it does.
Probably
helps. I think you'd struggle a bit more with the Ghost, wouldn't you? The Ghost would be a bit more of a struggle, but you're not there to beat the Ghosts, are you? So I think you'd still be all right matchup wise. But
and what Ghosts are we really seeing here? Like realistically, we're seeing
Frostlass.
Yeah, do you reckon we'll see Kofax?
New Toy Syndrome.
I think you'll see a few.
you'll see a few. Maybe the odd Haunter. But with Frostlass, if you're running Bullet Seed, I know that they lose the 0s and the 1s if you get a 1 Bullet Seed advantage. I think you can tie the 0s on IVs through like just neutral energy. And then in the 2s, I think you need like a Bullet Seed and a half to beat that. But you need Grass Knot because of the baits.
But even then, it's the sort of thing where, like, you can probably tank an Avalanche, whereas they definitely
you
can't
live in
tank
Avalanche and they don't.
Moz, what do you reckon for Dilly, Moz?
So I've got the thing that's flowing through my mind is the use of Lantern. If anyone's thinking Lantern, but one, because as you say, all the rocks are around. Lantern with Hydro Pump could be quite nice against them. If people shy away from the grass types, you might see quite a few more of those around. So I'm wondering, as the meta progresses, how that will play. That's what's popping through my mind with it. Something else that's quite interesting is whether, Aaron, you think that Lily could be a play here.
I think
level 51 Hundo, 1477 CP. Benefit of it is there's a few of them that went around so Niantic did a accidental glitch, and there's a small handful of Lileeps that have Bullet Seed.
I have 98, 14, 15, 15, 14 Lily.
With Bullet Seed?
Yeah.
The thing is, you can't Elite TM it. It was a glitch. So there's really not many of them. But the benefit of it is, it's a similar bulk, pretty much exactly the same, has Grass Knot, but it has Ancient Power over Stone Edge. But it doesn't have access to Bulldoze, so I'm wondering whether there's any play for that, just on the spamminess of the Ancient Power.
Ancient Power is definitely not a benefit. I think it might have got nerfed since you last played, Moz.
Oh, is it? Oh, okay.
Yeah. It is really bad now.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
To be fair, you can blame GBL for that. Just Giratina in GBL in Ultra League just ruined it. They were just getting boosted everywhere and ruining the game.
Right.
Yeah, it
still picks up very similar matchups. I think it's a bit better against Galv from the looks of it in neutral situations, but you get battered by Frostlass.
Yeah.
And the accessibility is poor. You need 296 XL cannons, and you need like the rarest move in the one of the hardest to find moves in the game on it.
And you can't even run return on it, which is you probably want return as a nuke because you're lacking Stone Edge, and you can't get return and Bullet Seed. So yeah.
Definitely a spicy pick if you go for it.
Well, yeah. You obviously like Cradily, Aaron. But,
oh yeah, I think I've run it most times it's been available.
Yeah,
it's the Rock Shadow Ball with stab. It's so good. It hits so hard.
Yeah,
it's just the grass that beats. The thing is, I don't know how common Mandy's going to be. That's nothing. Like, it has so many counters in this cup that will people run it? It might be rated rank 1, but like almost everything below it. I hope so. I really do hope people want to run it because my team loves it.
So my initial thinking was that people would probably run 2 out of 3 of Mandy, Goon, and Svilas. However, I think you mentioned that someone mentioned that Heracross is looking really popular, which it does look popular. And if people are running Heracross, I feel like Goon's going to be less popular. And I don't necessarily know that I think Mandy and Svilas are the best pair, given they both struggle versus Frostlass. And then at that point, you've got Darks that aren't really beating the one ghost that's going to be, in my mind, the ghost that's going to be around. I don't know. And they're a strange old pair. The more I think about this, the more. Like in my head, when I first saw this rule set, I thought Mandy's going to be an absolute monster here. But it's looking like everything you pick, or the vast majority of picks that people are going to be using, are going to have some serious play versus Mandy.
Yeah, I think most teams are being built with Mandy in mind because of how good it looks if you don't bring those counters.
Yeah.
I remember seeing the move set, like the rule set, and thinking my first thought was Obstagoon because it'll beat Manda. But then obviously people have gone Heracross, which is really, really popular. But the thing is, I think if obviously Heracross being popular will make people switch to Air/Manda, which I know a lot of people were saying, but it's actually recently on the rankings changed to Snarl, which I'm not sure if it's a mistake or if they've figured out that it's actually just slightly better with Snarl versus other stuff.
But I think I mentioned in the previous episode that there's a lot of stuff here that I think could be various moves. I think Crustle's one, I think Mandy's one, Roserade was one, the other grass type. I completely forgot what there was a few grass types in particular that I thought could go a few ways here. Goon as well, you could run a nuke, although I really don't think it mixed away. So what I noticed was that when the rankings changed, Crustle and Mandibuzz changed their fast moves. Both of them did, and I think both are fine. On both, I think they're all good mons. But yeah, I think Air/Mandy. If you're anticipating, I mean, it almost depends where you are in the world. If you're in somewhere where Heracross spawns in the wild, I think Snarl's probably fine because you're beating Heracross fine there anyway. I'd be more inclined to run Air/ because of Goon than because of Heracross in a weird sort of way.
Yeah, no, that makes sense because you're getting that neutral damage rather than the resisted. Yeah, that makes sense. I assume it's a bit closer between, because Mandy's very tanky. Does it even one shot with Aerial Ace? Because that move is beyond bad.
Heracross, it does about 88-90%.
That's a bit embarrassing, that.
It is.
Although so squishy.
Yeah, I mean, what I learned from Vortex Cup, because I was running Snarl Mandy in Vortex Cup, and was like treating it as a primate counter, and it just wasn't a primate counter because Aerial Ace only did about 40%, and you couldn't snarl it down. But Aerial Ace does do enough here for Heracross to make it a solid Heracross counter, even with Snarl.
Interesting. I guess they'll still have play with a bit of energy, won't they? Because obviously, if you get Heracross a bit up on energy and they're running Snarl, you could probably maybe run close combat. I don't know. Obviously, you probably want that Mega Horn damage here.
Oh, yeah, well, I think they're both equally viable. Mega Horn and it's sort of like that's probably the sort of thing you do right at the end when you got 6.
Yeah.
You figure out because I mean, realistically, you're very rarely going to press it because by the time you've done enough counters to get to a Rock Blast is probably going to be all you need to kill most things.
Yeah.
Cool. Any final thoughts on Cradily? Oh, you're muted, Moz.
I'm muted. I don't think I've ever actually used Cradily in a battle, so I feel like I'm going to have to do some practice with it. I've definitely got one. But Aaron seems to hype it up a bit, so I'm going to have to give it a go, see what it's all about.
I managed to convince Big Twads to come out of retirement for one cup last season, and he used Shadow Cradily and loved it.
Okay.
Shadow's not available here, but Elfidel was a big fan. Cool. Liam's still muted himself, so I'll assume that means he's ready to move on as well.
Oh, I've never built a Cradily, don't even have one ready to go, so it's a non-start for me.
So I've gone with another grass type, slightly different flavour. I've gone with Jumpluff, one of my favourites from season 2. I used it a lot in Voyager Cup, and it was putting a lot of work for me. I think it's an interesting one here because, in a weird sort of way, it can sort of replace Mandibuzz and Heracross. But if the big thing that Heracross is doing is beating Graveler and Obstagoon does that. And if the big things that Mandibuzz is doing is, what does you think? I don't even know what Mandibuzz does anymore because everything beats it. Like, you've got a flying type presence. It sort of takes on things like Beedrill, but again, you've got to watch out for the poison jab weakness. Yeah, I just think it's a really interesting starting point for a team because I feel like the Jumpluff team looks very different to, like, as Aaron was saying about the rock technology, I don't think you want to use 2 flying types here. And if you're running Jumpluff, that means you're not running Mandibuzz, you're not running Zapdos, which I think is legitimately good here. That's just not me. That's just not my fanboy. I think Zapdos is legitimately good. Tropius has a bit more consistent damage output and it's a bit spammier. But I think the whole point of this is that you've got a flying type that beats Alolan Graveler. You win the ones, Bullet Seed, Energy Ball. You, with a 1 Bullet Seed advantage, win all even shields, I think, if you time the moves correctly. And I think Graveler has to land a Stone Edge to win 1s and 2s, even in neutral energy, which, it might do, but given that the Rock Blasts are neutral anyway and from spammy and people know you want to shield the Stone Edge, like, I can see the Graveler going straight Rock Blast in that matchup, personally. So I think it's a fairly safe matchup versus Graveler. Like, I wouldn't want to switch it in, but certainly I'd stay in if it was the lead matchup, for example. Obviously you're beating Heracross. Obstagoon, you win 1s and 2s straight, 0s and 1s, straight Energy Ball. But what I think is potentially really interesting about Jumpluff here is Dazzling Gleam. It stops you from being walled by the Mandibuzz. It does almost 50% to Mandibuzz, I think. So the 0 shields is close. Like, you're still lost, but it's close. It means you're also not completely walled by his Vilus. Like, all of a sudden, you've got something that beats, or is happy to go up against a lot of the dark types, a lot of the counter users, a lot of the bugs, and can fight back against rocks as well. Like, I think it's just potentially a really, aside from Frostlass, which obviously murders it, but it's potentially a really safe mon. With Dazzling Gleam, so there are drawbacks to it. So Heracross, you are a bit slower to get to the Dazzling Gleams than the Aerial Aces, so you lose the 2s to Heracross. But you also win at a 1 shield disadvantage and the 0s to 1s. So I think you tank 3 Rock Slides or 3 Rock Blasts or whatever it is, while they shield the first Dazzling Gleam and the second one kills. So there's no real reason for you to shield in that matchup anyway to even get to the 2s in the first place. It's not too much of a drawback, I don't think. And you also pick up the 2s against Obstagoon as well. So you go Energy Ball until they shield, and then you go for your Dazzling Gleams, I think is the way to play that matchup. The only real downsides to dropping Aerial Ace are the weird things like the Beedrill, like the Roserade, where all of a sudden the poison damage with Bug, Excissor, or Excissor Chip, or Weather Ball Chip is going to add up. And also you don't have anything to hit Escavalier, which looks okay, but I don't think it's anywhere near as good as Heracross, and I probably wouldn't use it over Obstagoon either, personally. And so obviously you're losing all even shields versus Escav with Dazzling Gleam, whereas with Aerial Ace you pick up 1s and 2s. So there's that. But yeah, I just think Jumpluff is potentially, like, the grass types aren't seeing much love. I think Jumpluff could be a really interesting starting point, and then things just could go a bit wild from there. Like, it doesn't beat Magnezone. But then at that point, you could bring Chandelure as your ghost type. Like, why not? That's going to deal with the Roserade. That's going to deal with the Beedrills, that sort of thing. Like, it's just a really, really interesting starting point, I think. Yeah, Jumpluff. I also know, I should put out, so I'm obviously going to advocate for Bullet Seed here, because that's probably important in the Graveler matchup. But I also know for a fact that there is at least one person out there running Infestation on their Jumpluff. So there's an option there if you want to be super handy against the dark types. In fact, that might even flip the Mandibuzz Zero, so I'm going to do a quick sim of that now. But while I'm simming that, has anyone got any thoughts on
that was going to be my question, was there any play to using Infestation on it? Again, it's another one I'm not familiar with. I've not really used it, but I do know it's bulky. I know that. But yeah,
really
Infestation
bulky.
can be quite nice.
Yeah, Infestation flips Zeros versus Snarl Mandibuzz. What about Air Slash? No, Air Slash is
assuming you
just
still lose to Air Slash.
Yeah.
Versus Mandy in the ones, it's really close with Dazzling Gleam, but I think you need an Energy Ball bait. It's actually closer than the Zeros with Bullet Seed.
Realistically, though, the Mandy's never shielding that, are they?
That's what I mean. So you go Dazzling Gleam first, then they so shocked. Obviously, it's the first time they've seen it probably. Then they'll shield the second, and it's Energy Ball. And then I think you leave them on 5 HP if they're a rank 1. And obviously, if you are running a Jumpluff that's level 40, 41, a bit more attack than a 43, I think the rank 1 is, then you could probably take them. Also, how many people have got a rank 1 Mandy?
Well, they don't exist. They don't exist, do they?
Yeah, unless you're doing like zero rank, like level 0 friendship trades, which you can do that once. So they basically don't exist.
Whenever I check Mandibuzz sims, I always check 5, 15, 15 or something like that. I just think if I can beat that, I can beat every Mandibuzz out there.
Yeah, I'd take it as you win the ones, because that's a very little amount of HP, and obviously the HP IV is like one of its biggest things. If they're a bit short on that, then you're probably picking up that one shields.
Yeah, good point. Yeah, Twiggy, any Jumpluff thoughts?
You led me down a crazy path there because I thought you weren't going to mention Dazzling Gleam. Listing off all of these Aerial Ace Energy Ball sims. One thing that it's gotten is under the hood. I think the problem is Jumpluff might be good for if you're doing a day tournament rather than a 3-day round, because I think as soon as people start to realise that it's running that Dazzling Gleam, you lose the surprise aspect of it. Your Mandy's a bit more sceptical about it. I think it's one of those mons that you can surprise people with, and I think towards the back end it's going to start to fall away a little bit. I think this meta will shift a lot, but I think early in the month it's a really good mon to use, but I think we may see a few Houndooms in this cup.
What?
And I can imagine that just chewing its way through Jumpluff.
Hang on, where's this come from? Why are we seeing the Houndooms?
And fire damage is very underrated.
Does it even beat Heracross?
Ooh. It's going to be close.
Assuming it's close.
I mean, it's no way Snarl's beating Heracross, but presumably you're saying Firefang. No, Heracross beats Firefang Houndoom. No.
Ooh.
We're not going to see it. I'm not going to say that.
I really hope you get beaten by some of a Houndoom
I know,
now, bro.
yeah.
Heard it here first.
I think Chandelier is so much better than Houndoom. I personally think. Yeah, like Chandelier wins zeros versus Obstagoon. It's just that powerful. Like with Overheat, it's just that powerful. Houndoom just isn't that. I've run Houndoom before. I think it was in Catacomb Cup when everything else just failed me. I thought, what else have I got to lose here? Let's run Houndoom. Not a good mum. No. I don't know. I mean, maybe. You can't ever rule anything out, can you? But yeah.
Chandelier with overheating the zeros. So that's the strat.
Yeah.
That's terrifying with the incinerate damage as well.
It hits harder than a Shadow Ninetales over, like by some distance, like comfortably harder as well.
I wonder how much does it do to Credilli? I'm just actually going to sim just in case. I know Credilli beats Houndoom with Fire Fang in all evens, and I think you beat it in the 0-1s as well.
0-1s? Wow.
I think it's very IV based.
Alright, fair.
I think you have to have like basically a perfect Credilli, and they have to have a perfect Houndoom, and you live on like 1 HP from a flamethrower.
Fair. Yeah, jump off, man. I just
go for it. It loses to Credilli. Go for it.
Yeah, fair, safe. Yeah. No, jump off. I think if, like, as I say, a jump off team can look very, very different to a non-jump off team. Jump off's the sort of thing where you probably don't start with it, but let's say you find something really that isn't being used, and you think, oh, actually, if this goes like this and this goes like this, like jump off could very easily be a perfect fit for a team. And and to be fair, like since the Bullet Seed buff, it's not something we've seen a great deal of, but it's a really, really good mon. It's a really, really good mon.
I think if the Shadows were available here, I'd definitely be looking at it, because I've run Shadow Jump Off in Open Great League recently, and it's so good. It's so tanky. But I would be worried about. I'd be worried about the fact that there's a lot. Obviously, you've got a lot of poison, rock, and you've also got Galv here, which surprisingly I don't think it's been mentioned yet. I don't know where it is in the rankings, but Galv looks pretty good here as well.
It's fairly high, yeah. Galv's definitely an issue.
And also Frostlass as well.
Oh,
obviously, it destroys you. But if you're going for like, if the common thing becomes something like a couple of anti-fighters to deal with Heracross, Obstagoon or whatever, and people go Gal Frostlass as their two anti-fighters, because I'm pretty sure Gal still beats Heracross straight lunge, because you'll outpace it just, I think. So you'll be all right there.
Right. Yeah, no, I see what you mean. Like the meta could, it might be a bit of a jump up, might be a bit of a victim of the meta here. Like people aren't necessarily out to get jump off, but a lot of the things that they are out to get. Jump off, I suppose. I think it's certainly. It's like all grass types really here, where they've all got a bit of a flaw, and you gotta if you're gonna go with one, you've got a sort of various weaknesses in mind. I think. I was really keen. I was really keen on Venus, but I'm not seeing it.
Yeah, I think you could pair it with Crustle, and you do pretty well. Because obviously you take in that Smackdown Crustle. Because you take in the weaknesses that look very, very common, and you're doing okay against them. And then you've got obviously Mande, which you'll struggle against. But if you then you could end up running Aerial Ace Energy Ball, but I don't like Aerial Ace, so just run Dazzling Gleam probably. You'll probably one shot as well at some point.
Oh yeah, and it'll be glorious.
As long as you don't ever upload this, then you'll catch someone out.
That's going to be the issue now. I mean, I don't think I'll run jump off. I think I found a team I like, to be honest. But it's there and it's an option. Liam, Moz, we'll move on to your pick. Incredibly spicy. I'm a huge fan.
Yeah, so ranked 145 on PV Poke as of about 11 o'clock this morning. I've not checked it since. I mean, it loses to every bug apart from Whirlipede. It needs 276 XL candy to be viable, really. But hear me out. There is some good stuff to it, I promise you. So I really like it, mainly for the mud slaps. That's the main thing for me. And outside of the Krokorok, the Sandal family and Golurk, I don't think there's any mud slappers. Correct me if I'm wrong. But it resists Dark, Ghost, double resist Electric. It's weak to Bug and Grass. Beats every Electric in the cup apart from Minun, which is very close. And the Flying Electrics are a bit sketchy. So it loses to Zapdos on the 0 shields, but wins on the 1 and 2 shields. Emolga completely destroys it. It needs a shield to beat Emolga. It has some stupidly easy wins though. This is the thing with the mud slaps. The things that are double weak to it, like Alolan Golem, Magnezone, Graveler, Haunter, and Gengar, if they're there, they're all going to get absolutely destroyed by it. And I can see a lot of those being lead picks as well. So if you've got a surprising Krokorok in there in the lead, if they stay in, they're going to get nuked by quick moves, and you're going to have 50 energy or so coming out the back of it. So I feel like, to be honest, do you remember back in Kingdom Cup in first season when I ran the Snowy Cast form? I'm getting the same sort of vibes as the Snowy Cast form in Kingdom Cup from this. It's not something that is guaranteed to be consistent. It's a surprise mon. That's what it is, and it's for people that aren't prepared for it. People that don't know quite how attack weighted it is very much a glass cannon. And it could be, it's a very high risk, high reward thing. You know, it could absolutely wreck you if someone has counters to it. You're going to get stuffed. But at the same time, if someone wants to bring a Magnezone and I can't think what else, but I mean, no one's going to bring Magnezone and Alolan Golem, I don't think. But my point is, it can wipe one of their team out really quick. It can induce some panic into them, and then they might make a mistake as well if you're lucky. This one makes me a bit happy and a bit sad. So if Umbreon has Last Resort, it beats it in all shield scenarios, and it needs a shield to beat Umbreon. It beats Psychic Umbreon, but I don't know if that's viable in this. I think you need Last Resort really if you're going to use Umbreon. And another thing as well, which I think they'll creep in at some point, is the Dark Poison types. They're only weak to ground, and Mud Slaps are going to tear through them. So Drapion, in the one, I've not checked the 0 and the 2 shields, but with Drapion, if it's running, I think it's Poison Sting or Poison Jab, whichever the poison move is, it comes out the back of the match with Drapion. If you shield its the charge move, you come out with 134 HP. It absolutely wipes Drapion. It quick moves Alolan Grimer, which I've heard is the new beast. Beats Alolan Muck as well quite comfortably. It beats all of the poison ducks pretty comfortably. I know you've all slated Mandibuzz today. Mandibuzz destroys it, so there is one win there for Mandibuzz in all shield scenarios. Even if Krokorok has a 2 shield advantage, it still loses to Mandibuzz. You would have to watch out for Ice Fang Drapion, I guess. If anyone does run that will probably cause it some problems. But the typing goes in its favor as well, because it's dark type as well. It's going to resist the dark moves. You know, the dark poisons, spamming moves tend to be dark types. They're going to resist those, so you might not even need to shield them. So it's very much, you know, you need to figure out a plan on how to use it. But I just think it could surprise and trip people up a bit. Crocodile as well is viable. So I know that this, you know, Krokorok is very inaccessible, shall we say it. Krokorok, you can have it. I remember we were talking before that it's not available. You can get a Sandile from the level 45 special research, and it's level 15, which is what you need. That's the only way to get it, as far as I know. So it is possible. Crocodile is a lot more accessible. Pretty much exactly the same stats, same moveset, except Crocodile has Outrage instead of Crocorock's. I can't remember which move it was now. The other one. They both got Earthquake and Crunch. It's just the other moves I can't remember. But Crocodile's got Outrage. Crocodile also has Snarl.
Yes.
But they're both Mud Slappers. PV Poke's got Crocodile on rank 67 with Snarl, but I've not seen what it is for Mud Slap. But for me, it's the Mud Slap that does it. There's not a lot of ground in this. There's going to be a lot of stuff weak to ground. So that's why I like it. But, if somebody brings stuff that's going to, it's very hard to use it, I think. But it's a high risk, high reward mon. And I absolutely love high risk, high reward mons.
I suppose.
I guess I could see. Go on.
No, go on, after you.
I could see someone running something like Lantern and Magnezone, because then you've got 2 electrics, one that covers some grasses, and then you've got your Lantern, which will cover, obviously your other stuff. Also, Crocodile picks up Frostlass if you run Snarl, which is ridiculous. I'm guessing it's that attack damage.
Ridiculous.
That's mad.
Interesting. It's still. I think the only electric you lose to will be Galv, because Lunge will probably just about one shot if it's a glass cannon.
Yeah. I think Galvantry. I think you need to shield it. Yeah, you definitely would.
Yeah.
The flying electrics as well. It's not Emolga especially. It's not great without a shield. Emolga beats it pretty comfortably. Zapdos. Yeah. 0 shield, you'll beat Zapdos, but 1s and 2s you won't.
Have you had a look at Golurk, Moz?
I haven't. I've not even looked at it purely because it's Ghost and there's too much dark running around for my liking. I'm going to take a look.
Because it's got Dynamic Punch to hit. So you'll beat Obstagoon and you beat. I think you beat Swirless in 0 if you have a little bit of energy. Beat Swirless.
Right. Assuming it's close because they both charge pretty slow, don't they?
I mean, Mudslap is a horrendously slow charging fast move. I know in a recent sort of team tournament that we've been in, I used Mudslap for Gastrodon on my team. Even with Body Slam, it felt like a bloody age to get to it. So if you're holding out for Crunch or even Dynamic Punch or Earthquake even, you've got to be really sure. I feel like it's one of those mind games kind of mons where it's perhaps you don't bring it game 1, you don't bring it game 2, and your opponent maybe then thinks, he's not going to bring it. And then, which I don't know. I suppose if you can find a team of 5 that you really like, it could be good bench pressure, I suppose. You're right, it's going to absolutely terrify Graveler. And
5 Mudslaps kill Graveler. He's gone. Magnezone's even less. Magnezone will be 4 because that thing's soft.
Yeah, it will be. I've not checked Magnezone, but I think it'll be 4 or 5 for sure.
I feel like what you're doing by having this thing on your team is ensuring that your opponent isn't using Graveler or Magnezone as a safe swap, because that ain't safe. So you maybe have it on your team just as a way of, if you knew your opponent ain't going to safe swap Graveler, you can build your lines. You can build your lines of 3 with that in mind. But I think other than that, I think when you first introduced it, Moss, you went, it's resistant to dark, it's resistant to ghost, it's double resistant to electric. I think that's given that grass is fairly uncommon here, it's a really appealing shout on the surface.
Yeah.
But, given that many of the dark types don't do dark type damage, it doesn't actually help it much. Given that the ghost of Frostlass, once you start scratching the surface, it can struggle, I suppose. But I don't know. It's spicy for sure.
Let's see how it goes. I'll try it I've not even tried using it in battle yet. I've purely been looking at the numbers.
But you've built one. Do you have
I've
the
not,
XL?
no, I've not built one. I've not got one to use.
Do you have the XL to?
I've got about 150. So
Okay.
if I can walk 450 kilometers.
Yeah, it's a lot of oil or hatch a lot of eggs.
Yeah. You won't see a lot of them around. I really don't think you might see the odd crocodile. I don't know how many PvP is at 45, but I feel like if people want to use this, crocodile's probably the one they're going to use. I
didn't know. See, I'm still at level 41 because I didn't realise that you could get things like this. So maybe I need to start ranking up. Because like crocodile's one of those things that it's got a unique typing. Well, it's not unique. It's unique in the sense that Rock has it as well, but unique typings are always interesting. Like, I was looking forward to Galvantula for a long time. I'm still looking forward to Volcarona and Larvesta. But yeah, Crocodile is something I do want to get my hands on now, so maybe I'll have to put a bit of effort. Yeah. Cool. Any final thoughts on anything we've gone over today, or do you want to wrap it up?
I'm going to go back to Cordillera really quickly because we mentioned the dark poisons. You pick up Drapion in the ones, I think it is, with a 1 bullet seed advantage because they're doing so little with Poison Sting. I think they either need to get an early debuff from Crunch or run Sludge Bomb and bait perfectly. So I think even you see grass type coming in, you go to like Drapion, then they're in a bit of trouble.
Do you think Drapion's good?
I think I've seen people talk about it, but I don't think we'll see it much. You've got Mandy, if it's running Air Slash, that'll be a pretty tight matchup, I imagine. You've got the Fighters, quite common. And obviously, Drapion's best move now is Crunch. And Obstagoon resists that. And you've got Escav resisting most of its moves. Aquatail and Cruncher, its weapons against that. And then Heracross will probably just destroy it just because of its pure attack stat.
Mm-hmm.
I think each team will have at least one fighter because of how scarce counter is.
Yeah, I'm just not at all sold on the Dark Poisons. I think as much as maybe towards the end of the month, maybe things will come into.
I think Strong Tank's more interesting. That flamethrower damage, if people decide to run Bug Steals, I think even Escav has to be careful there. Being like almost fully super effective against you, and you're resisting their poison jab. If they bait Crunch and can beat you to the flamethrower because of the poison jab buff, did they give it 1 more energy? Was it?
Yeah, it was a big buff.
They gave it.
Yeah, no, I agree. So, Scud Tank is the dark poison that I would. Well, I don't know. Ice Fang Drapion sort of tempts me a little bit, but then I come to my senses, I think. But yeah. Cool.
To be fair, if anyone does run Ice Fang Drapion, they've got to go Cell Stinger just to really take the piss.
Shielding a Fell Stinger is the worst. Yeah. Right. Okay. Well, let's call it. Let's call it a day. Thank you for joining, guys.
No worries.
Moz, Twiggy. Looking forward to see what you guys do this season. More than one tournament, I hope.
For sure, yeah.
Remember to leave a box ticked, Liam. Don't do the old unticking. All right, guys. Thank you very much. Catch you all later.
Pleasure.
Catch you later.